I can see who's on Zoom also.
They're not. Well, let me join on Zoom too.
Okay. It is what it is. I guess the Luach Sa'ala, the wind kept everybody away. They can't get through because the tree is knocked down. B'chlal, when you think about the Rebbe Maharash in our generation, so we can't. We're always when we say the Rebbe Maharash, we immediately the first thing that comes to any chassid, the Shvi's mind, the Maharash, oh, Lechatchila Ariber. But b'chlal, this is what's called in English an anachronism. The Rebbe even said himself that perhaps in the door of the Maharash, people didn't really know about Lechatchila Ariber. The door of the Rebbe Rashab didn't know Lechatchila Ariber. The Frierdiker Rebbe, even though from the beginning of the Frierdiker Rebbe's the Seers didn't know about Lechatchila Ariber. L'Kutei Purim and Papri Feichet says a letter. Over there, the Frierdiker Rebbe speaks about Lechatchila Ariber. The Rebbe Maharash says Lechatchila Ariber. So already over here we see the tirekite that the Rebbe has to avoid the Rebbe. The Frierdiker Rebbe said avoid Lechatchila Ariber. The Rebbe Maharash Lechatchila Ariber. As the Welt sagt, as the Kaddish Arut against the Ariber, we can't go under, you go over ich zog Lechatchila Ariber. But I say that already initially you should go over. So we see that that how precious it needs to be to us. The Rebbe says something. It's already we take it as it's extremely precious. So it comes to mind a story talk about a storm with the Rebbe Maharash. So we had over here a quick half an hour storm, but that 300,000 people are out of power, electricity. But there was the Maisa, the Rebbe Maharash was he was known already from his youth to be very jovial. He would laugh, he would talk to people, he would move with people. And that's one of the reasons why they didn't consider the Rebbe Maharash initially. They didn't consider the Rebbe Maharash to be like they call Rebbe material. After the stalkos of the Tzemach Tzedek, so the Chassidim they initially went to the Maril, because most Chassidim they knew the Maril because the Maril would go around. Yehuda the older son of the Tzemach Tzedek, he was to go around the various shluchasim of the Tzemach Tzedek. He was already saying my morning for 30 years. He would give brachas and say chassidishe. So they went to the Maril, and they told him that that Baruch Shalom Bichlal he already said he's not into the bigger Rebbe, and Baruch Shalom is Bichlal he's not into it. Yosef Yitzchak of Avruch, he's also not shackled because he's already a Rebbe in Avruch. He already b'chayev shel the Tzemach Tzedek against the wish of the Tzemach Tzedek. He already became a Rebbe. So you only have three sons. It says you, Chaim Zalman, and Yisrael Neach, the Manin. He said, what about the fourth? What about they didn't even think to mention that for the Rebbe Maharash. The Rebbe Maharash. So they said, what about he said, what about the Rebbe Maharash? What about the Maharash? And he said he's also in the parsha. They asked him, he's also part of this parsha of the Bistavus. And he said he's not only the parsha, he's got the set of parsha. Not only the parsha, he's the whole chumash. Why did they think the Rebbe Maharash was in Rebbe material? Because the Rebbe Maharash, one of the things about the Rebbe Maharash was that he was a businessman. He used to do with stocks and bonds and big houses, and he never spoke in learning with anybody. But he used to sit and talk to people, say stories, and he would bring people advice to the Tzemach Tzedek. But Rebbe didn't think he was. So this anhaga, this attribute of the Rebbe Maharash, that he would sit and say stories, there was continued on even throughout the Messias, that the Rebbe Maharash had a seder, that he would sit in the courtyard of the chutzner of his house, and the passerbys of Lubavitch, he would stop them, and he would tell them stories, he would talk to them, he would say stories. So one of the stories he said is that he once told the chassid that at the time of the Alter Rebbe, there was two chassidim that the Rebbe sent them, the Alter Rebbe sent them a shliach that they should give tzedakah. So they went to the first chassid, and he went to the chassid and he said that you should give tzedakah. And the Alter Rebbe said, so the chassid of the Alter Rebbe said, he said, how much did the Alter Rebbe say I should give? Because usually or generally, the Alter Rebbe would tell them a schum, tell them an amount that they need to give, and that's the amount that they would give. Over here, the shliach told the chassid that the Alter Rebbe wasn't make of a schum. He didn't say a specific amount of money. So this chassid, he said, okay. And he said he went into his house and he collected all the money that he had in his house, and he put it in an envelope and he gave it to the chassid or whatever, I don't know, envelope, but he gave it to the chassid, He gave it to the shliach. They said tomorrow, the first thing in the morning, we're going to wake up, we're going to go to Liad, Yozna, whatever it was at the time. We're going to ask Al how much he wants. I have no idea how much he wants. So fine. That was the first chassid. He went to the second chassid, and he went to the second chassid, and he also asked the second chassid also asked him how much. Oh. He asked him how much did the Alter Rebbe, what's schum, what's the amount of money that the Alter Rebbe requested of me that I should give? I'm willing to give, but I want to know the schum. He said, I don't know. He didn't say an amount. So the chassid the Alter Rebbe said, he said, okay, first thing in the morning, I'm going to get up, and I'm going to go to the Alter Rebbe. I'm going to ask him how much he wants. So the first chassid, the next morning, right away, he davened quickly, was sick, and he went to the Alter Rebbe. The second chassid, the story goes that first he went to the shliach brought the schum to the Alter Rebbe. He brought the man to the Alter Rebbe, and he said, "Here's the money." So he said, "What happened to the other chassid?" And he said he's going to come because he said he didn't say the amount. He's going to come next day. The Alter Rebbe said, "I hope he comes before anything happens." So the kid said the next day, Taka, both of them woke up in the morning, and the first one, right away, he goes to the Rebbe. The second one, first he davened, and then he sat and ate breakfast, and then he whatever, a whistle. And while he was about to go, there came a storm in the city, and the lightning struck, and the house went on fire, and the whole town went on fire, and he made it out of the city with his life. Sorry, it's a little bit. I missed the point that the first chassid, the Alter Rebbe told him he should leave the city right away. The first thing he did in the morning, Taka took everything from the house and he left the city with his family. He didn't ask questions where to go or anything. Taka left the city. So what do we see? We see also the Tarkite of a Rebbe's avart that the Rebbe says something. So connected to storms. Connected to the storm, you see that Hashgacha Pratis, everything was Hashgacha Pratis. So this story came to mind when I saw the storm that Sam should say the story. There's another story that came to that I also thought about the storm. I don't know about you guys, but in Greenfield we don't have electricity. So and finally my whole house was dark, and I realized it had bigger windows. So the Tzemach said that there was a fire in Lubavitch. There was a fire in Lubavitch, and the house was burnt down. And they built it when the Rebbe Maharash rebuilt the house. The Rebbe Maharash built the house with big windows. And when he came to the house for the first time, so what do you need such big windows for? So he said, when there's bigger windows, there's more light. So he said, I told him that by the Alter Rebbe, there were small windows. So the Rebbe Maharash said, it was finster. So the Rebbe said, no, it was lichtig. But in my house, it was finster. Anyway, so there's two mices that I thought of the Rebbe Maharash that were connected with the storm. Al Panim, L'chaim. Rebbe Maharash's birthday, it falls out every year on the Beis Iyar. Every year it falls out on Beis Iyar. And the Beis Iyar falls out every year in the middle of Sfira. It's an interesting experience that happens every single year. That Beis Iyar is the Rebbe Maharash's birthday. Huh? The Hashgacha Pratis. Beis Iyar, both Rebbe Maharash's birthday. Every single year, the same date, and it's in the middle of Sfira. So the Rebbe asks a very interesting question about this. That we know that Sfira HaOmer is what Sfira HaOmer? Sfira HaOmer is the avodah of Milamata L'Mayla or Milamayla L'Mata. We count from before we go from Yitzias Mitzrayim. The first day is Chesed Shebechesed, the Gvura Shebechesed, the Tiferet Shebechesed, etc., until you get to Matan Torah. Rebbe asks, it would seem, it seems from this, the whole idea of Sfiras HaOmer is Seder V'Hadraga. It's the orderly avodah. That Pesach is diluk. Pesach, we jump. It's a Seder V'Taka Lechatchila Ariber. But Sfiras HaOmer itself is the avodah of the reverse of diluk. It's the reverse of jumping. It's not Lechatchila Ariber. It's an orderly avodah. So how is it that the Rebbe Maharash, which is Baal Maimer, Lechatchila Ariber, how is it possible that the Rebbe Maharash's birthday is in Iyar, and not just in Iyar in Beis Iyar, the beginning of Iyar? When we're the Aschala of the Avodah of Iyar, that's when specifically we have the Eirah of Lechatchila Ariber. Yeah, good question, no? So, in order to understand this, we need to understand what's the word. We all know the Welt sagt, we can't The Welt says that you can't go under, we go over. But the Ich sag, I say you should go. Initially, you should already go over. So it's a very sounds good on paper, but what's a rutter? What's a riber? What's the pshat in the word? What does the word mean? And who is the Welt? Who is this Welt that we're talking about? So it's interesting. If you take a look at the Maimorim, if you look at the Chassidishe Rebbe Maharash, it never says this word. The word of Mechanic Ariber, it doesn't say this word. This word, as Mechanic Ariber, Gateman Ariber, it's brought twice in Chassidus. Chassidus is brought twice. It's brought in the Maimer of the Rebbe, and it's brought in the Maimer of the Tzemach Tzedek. And at both of those times, the word is K'maimer ha'olam, and Mechanic Ariber, Gateman Ariber. That if you can't go under, you go over. More so, by the way it's brought in Tzemach Tzedek. The Tzemach Tzedek says this word. It says Hoya Nishma Tomid. That the Alter Rebbe would always say, and the Kenish Darut Gateman Ariber. So what we see from this, when the Rebbe Maharash is Machadish and the Kenish Darut Gateman Ariber, it's not only a Chiddush over episode of Snagid Egedhu, the Welt, but it's even the Welt of Chassidus. It's a Chiddush and Chassidus over the avodah of the Alter Rebbe. That the Alter Rebbe used to always say, "Oh, you nishma tamid," would always say, "As we can arut Gateman Ariber." So perhaps we can understand the word through the context of the way the word is brought by the Tzemach Tzedek and the Rebbe. What context is it brought? So it's the way it's brought over there. Tzemach Tzedek and the Rebbe. It's brought in the context of tshuva. That about tshuva needs to go Ariber. It needs to go. Why? Because the avodah of tzaddikim, the avodah of a regular person is avodah mesuderes. It's an orderly avodah. You're going in the proper path. Valakim also saw Adam Yasher. The Abishur made man upright. That's the avodah. The way the Abishur made the avodah, the Abishur made it, and we go orderly. First A, then B, then the Aleph, Beit, then Gimel. Elamai, the Baal Tshuva has a problem. They bring over there to Mashal. The Mashal is that you have a river, and the river dries up. So what do? If the river dries up, you need to redig. You go to the beginning of the Mayan, you go to the beginning of the spring, and you dig. You dig to the beginning of the spring. If the spring is stopped up to the beginning, you go to the spring. You dig deeper in the spring until you get to a deeper place, and the water will burst forth again. What does that tell us? It tells us that what's the avodah of Lechatchila Ariber? The avodah of Lechatchila Ariber is that generally a person could think they do avodah Hashem in a the normative seder. If you can do the normative seder, so what do you need to do? You need to go to your Nekudas Hayados. You need to find the etzem of the yid. You need to go to your yechida. You need to go to the etzem hanefesh, and from the etzem hanefesh, being that your nefesh is not to say there, your ruach is not to say there, your shav is not to say there, your levushim aren't to say there, and all your machshavas, your ma'is is not to say there. So you need to serve the Eibishter. You need to serve the Eibishter from a deeper place. So the Rebbe Maharash says, why should we only do the avodah of the Baal Tshuva, the Keddush HaRuter, River? Why should the regular yid who didn't lose out? Lechatchila Ariber. We need to go. Lechatchila Ariber. We need to start the avodah already. Initially, we start the avodah from already going Lechatchila. We started from the etzem hanefesh. You look at the life of the Rebbe Maharash. So the Rebbe Maharash, his whole life was a little bit was paradoxical. He lived in a certain paradox. On one hand, the Rebbe Maharash once said about himself, he said he never cried. Why? Because he said he had nothing to cry about. He never had anything to cry about. But if you look at the passage, the Gospels, Rebbe Maharash had an extremely difficult life. Rebbe Maharash, already from when he was a young child, he was in modern science. He was a Baal Basar. He was even though he didn't eat a lot, but he was very big. Modernly, they say probably a thyroid problem or something like that. Bad blood circulation. And to the point that his fingers, the fingers of Rebbe Maharash were swollen. He had fingers were swollen. They were when he was 6 years old. Already, the doctor said that they might need to amputate his fingers. So that's why the Rebbe Maharash they said, what should he do? So they said that he should do hand exercises. He should open the hand, close the hand. His parents were good, apparently good mechadachim, but they realized that if you're going to give a child to do hand exercise, it's not a good shmak. They said they have a better idea what to do. They're going to give him, let him get involved in building and cutting and woodwork. And they got him a penknife. They got him what's it called, whittling knife, whatever. Things to do woodwork. And he got so good at it that he built a menorah with 12 candelabras. He built a table that was in his room. He did all sorts of but that's when he was 6 years old. When he was 14 years old, he got married, and 2 months after the chassidishe, his wife died. His first wife died. When he was 19, he had leukemia, and then he had later in his what? And then eventually Taka passed away. He passed away from leukemia. He had heart troubles his whole life. He wrote a will when he was 39 because he thought he was going to pass away when he was 39. He had heart problems. Part of the Baal Yisurin that so much that he had the skin of his body went over itself, but underneath there was open sores. It was open sores. So the point that it says al pi halacha that you need when you go to sleep, you need to go sleep on your left side, and middle of the night you need to switch to the right side. But it was too painful for the Rebbe Maharash to turn over in the middle of the night. He used to wash Negelwasser and get out of bed and go to the other side of the bed and then lie down again on the other side of the bed on the right side. You see that he had an extremely difficult life on one hand, and on the other hand, it was also the opposite to that it says that Friedrich once said that he always, or the Rebbe Rashab once said that he always had a smile on his face. He was always smiling. It was always everybody's favorite part of the office. So we see that there was these two opposite tenuas. There was also two opposite tenuas in his both in his anhaga, but in his anhaga and both in the Bistave and in anhaga in general. So, for example, it's Yidua that the Rebbe Maharash used to have wagons and masharsim, and he had horses, 6 horses, and different color horses, and every day he would go for a 2 rides every day with a horse. And the way he used to go ride with the horses was that he was to ride with the horse in the morning at 9:30 in the morning. To go take the horses, he would tell the one Masharas, the other Masharas would tell the next Masharas, the next Masharas would tell the next Masharas, the next Masharas would tell the next Masharas. So they finally told, it got trickled down, told Ivan, the wagon driver, and they would take the horses, and they would because it would say they would take with this horse, take that horse, it was all say there. One time the chassidim got the wagon driver shikir, and it was Megala Soy, the Heilig Racha Megala Soy, and he told them that I don't understand your Rebbe. It's a different Gesayis in the story. He said, your Rebbe, one of the Gesayis, you think your Rebbe is so great, but I don't understand why he has so much, like a polis, one of the most wealthy landowners, the richest people in the whole area, the biggest house in Lubavitch. He was very successful. You know, he won the lottery even. But your Rebbe, he goes out to the forest every day or whatever from time to time, and he gets out of the wagon, and he sits on a stump, and all of a sudden the ants out of nowhere they come and they bite him and they eat him, and he sits and he cries and he cries and he cries. Then all of a sudden he gets up and all the ants run away, and it's all good. You see a stira over there, a little bit of a paradox over there. On one hand, it was bichitzonius, it was a certain harchava, but on the other hand, that's the Rushner. The Rushner. It's true, the Rushner. It's a true story. But we see, but on the other hand, it was the ultimate brokenness. And also throughout his life, in Anhaga, the Chassidim, the way the Chassidim, the way the even in his life, we know very little about the askanus of the Rebbe Maharash.
You don't want anyone to know. The guy
Oh.
was fired after.
The Mashal was fired, that he begged. Different Gesed this time, but yeah. But that a lot of the askanus of the Rebbe Maharash was as if the Rebbe Maharash didn't do anything. He sat like a polis, people thought, and he was to go to Italy and go to Germany and go to France and go all around. And go to health spas and all sorts of things. And people thought, even the Chassidim, they thought that the Rebbe Maharash is not. He's not really doing anything for all the chassidishe that Klal Yisrael. And there was, on one hand, he was poil a lot, and the Rebbe explained that it really was faked. A lot of times the traveling of the chitzonius of his traveling, he went for health reasons, right? But the Pneumius, really, when he would go to a place, he would now go to Italy because he needed to talk to this person in Italy. He would go to Germany, he needed to talk to this person in Italy, etc., etc. And the health thing, not only was he not going for those reasons, but it was even more, it made it more difficult for the Rebbe Maharash. Rebbe Maharash says that he had a padded wagon. The inside were were padded. What was the reason why they were padded? Because when the Rebbe Maharash would travel, he would go by train. The train was an hour away from Lubavitch. So, but the train, just to go on a train, for the Rebbe Maharash, was an extremely painful. How much mashki do I need? What do you do with it?
Not the drink, just to keep it.
I have her, yeah. But every bump and every was Yisur Neiroim just to travel. But the Yisur Neiroim was all between. They could have been gone that closer health spa in Russia or closer health spa somewhere else, or it's a different doctor. The Tafka went to these places for the other for Klal Yisrael. So there was always this paradox. The same thing with the chassidishe of the Rebbe Maharash. The Rebbe says that his chassidishe it's deceptively simple. That by the Rebbe in before the Nesius there was a Yid, the name was Shmuel Levitin. Shmuel Levitin, when he tried to convince the Rebbe to become Rebbe, so he knew that the Rebbe was Grace about Nigla, been going in Nigla, the Rebbe knows a lot. Bala even. But I didn't think that the Rebbe knew too much Chassidus. To Yachel. So the Shmuel Levitin, huh? Huh? No. Shmuel Levitin, he suggested to the Rebbe that he should base his Maimorim of the. He said if you want an eitzah how to be a Rebbe, so he said you should take the Maimorim of the Rebbe Maharash and the easy Maimorim, and you could base your Maimorim say it on the Rebbe Maharash. So in the Chavs, the Maimorim were extremely difficult. So the Maimorim were extremely difficult. So the Chassidim wanted they complained that they wanted that the Maimorim were too hard to follow. But who should they said? Who are they going to send to the Rebbe? So they said Shmuel Levitin should give the Rebbe an eitzah to change the Maimorim. So he went to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe said, "What do you mean? I took your advice. These are Maimorim. They're based on Rebbe Maharash. Saying Rebbe Maharash. What do you want from me?" So you see that in all things there was this paradox between oftentimes when we think about Lechatchila Ariber, we think Lechatchila Ariber means, and there's also the truth of the Lechatchila Ariber that it's going in Rachava, and it's going in Great Zachin, and Tifah Zachin, Lechatchila with Tifah Zachin. But there's a certain aspect of Lechatchila Ariber that's really fakir. That it's really that in the simplest, what Lechatchila Ariber? Lechatchila Ariber means the start itself, the beginning itself. The Lechatchila, the thing you start with, the thing that your starting point, even in the simple things, is already Ariber. Already in the Rebbe Maharash Maimorim, the Rebbe said that he was talking. He in a certain way, it's more simple than the Maimorim of his brothers or the day before the Atla was Chachma. The middle was Bina. We see that Chava, the middle Maimorim. In the Sebach Tzedek, it's an idea of Das that it's Makasher, Nigla, Chassidus, and Kabbalah, and it's very hard to follow. It's very deep. He's quoting from Ben Yaakov, he's quoting from Medrash, he's quoting from Maimar Azal. So that everybody can understand it. The Rebbe said that's the true Lechatchila Ariber. The true Lechatchila Ariber is that when your starting point, when your most basic premises, even when you're in the simplicity, even in the pashtos, even the simplest things, already over there, that's where the river is. Like the Rebbe explains, L'gabe Pshuta Shel Mikra, it's Davka Pshuta Shel Mikra, whereas the Skala Yener Shel Torah, that the deepest things are specifically they're specifically revealed in the simplest things. The simplest thing is L'gabe Pshuta Shel. So the same thing. So how does it go back to the what shot we had the question? Why is Beis Iyar? Why is Beis Iyar Why did it fall out of the middle of Sfira? Why did it fall out in here? Why did the Lechatchila Ariber fall out in Sfira? The Rebbe says, so it's the same thing, that we need to know that even in the Seder, so a person could think that there's a Seder, there's a one Avodah, there's a Seder Madrag, one Avodah is your normal Avodah, that it's an orderly Avodah. Another Avodah is in a way of Lechatchila Ariber. The Rebbe tells us what does the Rebbe Maharash tell us by being born to be also in Beis Iyar, being born that the Lechatchila Ariber specifically expressed in Sfira, is that even in the state of Adraga, even in our normal Aveda, it's specifically there we need to do Lechatchila Ariber. Okay. Nigin. We did Lechatchila Ariber. Ay, ay, yarere, yarera, yarera, ya. Always bad to start digging. Start digging every digging, a small crowd. I can't afford people to leave. Yarera, yarera, ya. Ah, hey, yeah, ya, ba, 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 ba. Ah, ya, da, 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 da. Ya, la, da, 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 la, la. Ya, 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 la, da. Ya, da, ya, da. Ay, 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 la, da, ya, da, da, ya, ya, da. Ay, 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 ya, da, ya, da, ya. Ya, da, da, ya, da, ya, da. Ya, da, da. La, la, la. I let it, I let it, I la da da da, I let it, I la da da. I let it, I la da la da, I let it, I let it, I la da 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 da. Da da da, I let it, I la da da da. I la da 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 la da da la da da ya la. Ay ay ya da 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 ya. Ah hey ya la da da ya la ya la da. Ay ay ya la da da la da da. Ay, 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 la da, ya da, ya. Ara da, ya da, ya da. Hey, ya da, la da. Ah, ya da. Fine. It says with the time of Sfiras HaImer, about Sfiras HaImer, concerning Sfiras HaImer, says the pasuk Mashcheni Acharecha Narutza Heviani Amelech Adonov. So Mashcheni means pull me. Acharecha Narutza, then I will run after you. We will run after you. Heviani Amelech Adonov. The Abishur brought me the king. The king brings me into Chadorov. He brings me to sanctum, sanctorum, into his private chambers. The Diglo Alai Ava. And then over there, there's the Ava Pneumius. There's the internal, the Pneumistic love. That says in the Svarim that in Chassidus, that Mashcheni goes on the time of Pesach, because over there, Pesach was in a way that the Eibishter drew us. He pulled us, Kiviyachol, against our will. They pulled us, they were pulled out of Mitzrayim. They were still at the Ra within them, and therefore they would need to be pulled out of Mitzrayim. I will run after you. That's the time of Sfiras HaOmer. And V'yani HaMelech HaDorov, that's Shavuos. Because at Shavuos, the Rebbe used to say many times that the V'yani HaMelech HaDorov, it's Cheder K'pshuto, that it's the same way the kid goes to Cheder. It's important to call it's not a day school or a school or this, the Cheder. So the V'yani HaMelech HaDorov, this idea of V'yani HaMelech HaDorov, that you're coming into the Eibishter's Cheder, it's expressive of the Eibishter's room. And it says, like it says in the Pasuk, Chol B'nayich L'mudi Hashem, Rav Shloi B'nayich, that everybody is L'mudi Hashem. Everybody, all of us were students of the Eibishter. So we're in the period now that the first period is Mashcheni, the Eibishter pulling us. And then there's the period of Sfiras HaOmer. And Sfiras HaOmer, we're counting 49 days. It says in the Torah, there's 50 times. It says Yitzias Mitzrayim in the Torah. Why? Because the first time we went to Mitzrayim, we didn't really go out of Mitzrayim. We need to go out of another Mitzrayim, It's the 50th time. It's every day of Sfiras HaOmer. We go out on our own Kiviyachol. We go out of Mitzrayim another time until we're able to go to the Eibishter's Cheder and V'yani HaMelech HaDorov and learn Torah from the Eibishter. So it's understood that we're in a time that it's a serious Havai. The time of Sfira is not only that we sit and we count, even though that's Alena, that Rebbe said that counting, we make every single day count. We make a mitzvah, we make the Yid makes the day. But there's something serious that we need to do in counting. And we're doing Sfira. We're working on ourselves to come close to be able to be roy for not just for Matan Torah, but for the Torah of Mashiach. So it's interesting that the Rebbe rarely Farbrengen on Beis Iyar. The Rebbe Farbrengen Beis Iyar. First time the Rebbe Farbrengen Beis Iyar was Toshin Yud. Toshin Yud before the Tzidkas K'viyachol, the Rebbe Farbrengen Beis Iyar. Then the next Farbrengen Beis Iyar was Toshin Lamed Vav. And then there's Mem Beis, Mem Daled, a little bit, yeah. There's a few Farbrengens after that, but the Beis Iyar wasn't one of the times that the Rebbe Farbrengen. In general, one of the times that the Rebbe Farbrengen Taka was Beis Iyar was Beis Iyar Toshin Mem Daled. The Beis Iyar was really Gimel Iyar, but the Rebbe said that Beis Iyar was Erev Shabbos, and that was giving an excuse. Kiviyachol, why is he making a Farbrengen? And one of the reasons why the Rebbe says he's making a Farbrengen it's also Beis Iyar. In that Beis Iyar Farbrengen though was also it coincided with the first time that the Scholas HaRambam. Now we learn Rambam B'Kviyas for already 45 cycles, but that was the first cycle of Rambam. And over there, the first cycle of Rambam, the Rebbe explains the pasuk. The Rebbe explains the pasuk that the beginning of the Rambam commences with the with the idea we said before. With a similar pasuk of B'shoy Chastachal Yidech, you'll pull chesed to the people who know you. And they're stuck to the Yisrael to people who are Bali Tshuva. So over there, the Rebbe explains that a fascinating idea that I think it's an important point. Both in it's fascinating, but it's more importantly, there's a lesson in chinuch that in this verse, and we know that the time of Iyar, the time of Sfira, the time of chinuch, and the earlier Tashal Lamed Beis, that explains the whole idea of The Rebbe explained that the whole idea of Sfira, the Beis Iyar then, the Rebbe explained Toshab as well, that the whole idea of Sfira is the idea of Chinuch. So there's a Chinuch over there as well. The Rebbe over there says that if you look at the Rambam, the Seder of the Rambam is in a way of Lechatchila Ariber. Rambam starts in a Lechatchila Ariber way. Why? Because if you look in Rambam, the Seder, even the way the Rambam explains himself, says the Rambam starts with Hilchos Yisod HaTorah. And in Hilchos Yisod HaTorah, which means the fundamental principles of Judaism. And the fundamental principles of Judaism itself, the first thing that Rambam opens his book with is not just Habayis Bereshis, not Hilchos Tshuva, not Hilchos Deis, not how to act as a mensch, not how to act like anything. The first thing that the Rambam opens the Sefer with is with Yisodis Abudah Chachmas, the principle of all principles, and the pillar of wisdom, which is the acronym for Yud Kei Vav Kei, is Leider Sheish Amati Rishon, and he goes on to explain Ma'aser Merkava. And he goes on to explain the most deepest part of the Torah, which is called Ma'aser Merkava. That it says that Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai says Lo Hiniach Davar Gadol or Davar Katan. He learned both big things and little things. What's the little things? The little things are a voice the Bible, the arguments of a Bible, Shas. And what is the big thing? The big thing is Ma'aser Merkava. And the Rambam himself, he says at the end of when he explains Ma'aser Merkava, he says that Ein Roy, that the person should delve into Ma'aser Merkava. Not Roy. So who should delve into Ma'aser Merkava? Who should learn these things? Only somebody who's morally crazy. That first you need to fill your stomach with shas, and you need to know halacha, you need to know this, and only then, after you've learned everything, can you learn Ma'aser Merkava. And then, notwithstanding that, now what does Rambam do? Rambam has a fakir to say that. He has the opposite Seder that Rambam says in Makdama of the Sefer, is that the person should, the only thing you need to know to read the Sefer, is Chumash for Adam Karim of Torah Tchila, which is Rebbe explains Chabisha Chumshei Torah. First, you just need to read Chabisha Chumshei Torah, and then only afterward, and then you could, right after you finished, you lived with the 5-year-old, you finish Chumash, whatever age, go at a Rambam, let's learn Ma'aser Merkava. Let's learn Yisodis Abudah Chachma, and the deepest thing. So Vikan Zayin. So already there we see the biggest Lechatchila Ariber in the Chinuch, in our philosophy of Chinuch. Already what the Rambam says of how to be mechanech, is that a person could think to be mechanech. No, that we're first going to start with first going to say Derech Eretz Kodmul Torah. We're first going to teach you how to be a mensch. Then I'm going to teach you how to be a yid. Then I'm going to teach you how to be an Erlich Yid. I don't know. Then I'm going to teach you how to be chassid, right? But the Rambam said, no, forget Lechatchila Ariber. The first thing we teach our kids is to be a chassid. The first thing the first chinuch is Yisodis Abudah Chachmas. So what the Rebbe says that what Mashcheni after Refanerut. So the Rebbe says that there's basically what Mashoy Chaftecha Liyedecha. The Rebbe says that there's essentially there's two paths. There's the first a person is Oisek. If you look at the end of Rambam, the end of Rambam says that Lo Ya'esek Kol Ha'olam Kula Ela L'das Hashem Bilvad. Right? That the whole occupation of the world will be only to know Hashem. And Lefichach Yiyu Chacham Gedolim, they're going to be very wise. V'yesigu das boiram gefi koyach Adam. Then afterwards, it's going to be Kaman Liyom Mechasim. So the Rebbe says that that's the idea of Mashcheni. Mashoy Chatzecha Yedecha. What does it mean? Mashoy Chatzecha Yedecha. First comes Yedecha. First comes you didn't know Hashem. Then the idea of Mashiach. What's the idea of Mashiach? The Rebbe says Mashiach. What's Mashiach? You're pulling that there's a Mashiach, that there's like one of the ways of kinyan, One of the ways of acquiring something is you pull it, you do a kinyan meshicha, and you're pulled from one rishus to another rishus. So that's the idea. And we go completely out of our own way of comprehending things, our own the human. We go out of the human seichel anushi, and we go kamayim lo mechasim. And we have that. We go to a higher plane of the Abish, the Abish's plane. But what's the anocha that the Rebbe that we hear that the Rebbe is teaching? That notwithstanding that a person could think that the way of chinuch should be first that you should put hilchos you say that Torah at the end of the book. No, we start the beginning of the book with Yisayde is Amud HaChachmas. Why? Because that's Lechatchila Ariber. Lechatchila Ariber teaches us that we see if you look at davening, the end of davening, we say at the end of davening we say Ein Kelikeinu. I don't know if you guys ever thought about it. You know, Ein Kelikeinu, what does it mean? What does Ein Kelikeinu mean? There's nobody like God. There's nobody like our God. Then it says Ein Kelikeinu. Then what do we say next? Mi Kelikeinu. What does Mi Kelikeinu mean? Who's like God? So it should switch the other way around. Right? So Ein Kelikeinu should start Mi Kelikeinu. Right? First we should start who's like God. Then we should say Ein Kelikeinu. Why do we say Ein Kelikeinu first before we say Mi Kelikeinu? Right? So whatever the answer is given, but it's brought in Sfarim. One of the answers is because in order to say Mi Kelikeinu, in order to say who's like God, we first need to have the anocha. We first need to have the anocha Ein Kelikeinu. First need to have the anocha. You need to start at the top. You need to start. There's nobody like the Eibishter. You need to start. There's Ein Kelikeinu. Only after you have the Lechatchila Ariber, you know there's nobody like the Eibishter. Then you can start with Seichel. Which means Seichel is not a first step. But then we come philosophy. We think. I know we can think like Descartes said, "Cogito ergo sum." I think, therefore I am, and that's that. Therefore, I'm eventually going to reach that there's a God. No, but then your yisoid is that there's ich bin, right? And that I exist. The yisoid of Chassidus, the way we're mechanech our children, is that our initial hanocha to life is ein kelikeinu. The Lechatchila Ariber teaches us that the first thing the first way we start the first way that our first upleg, our first axiom of before anything else is he says first comes Lechatchila Ariber, and then afterwards you can have the whole Sefer Hayad and totally you're going to get back to it again at the end of the book. I saw last week a Farbrengen of the Rebbe, where the Rebbe talks about chinuch, and over there the Rebbe talks about that when we mechanech our children. So the Rebbe says we need to give we need to start giving our children already from the youngest age. We need to give them already the biggest things. We need to give them already the biggest yisoides. The Rebbe says that we could do this in the simplest things, just like we see that about the Rebbe Maharash in the simplest things, in the simplest chassidus kiviyachol is simple, and over there he expressed the deepest Torah. Rebbe says when we teach our children to say brachas, you need to teach them that Baruch we need to draw down. Atom means you, Atmos, you the Eibishter himself. Yeah, Baruch Ata Hashem, that we need to bring Hashem present in your life. You need to teach a child that already Baruch Ata Hashem, when you make a bracha, you're bringing the Eibishter into your life. And I said, when the first kid, he wants the mamtak, he wants the candy, he wants the tzukike, he wants the teish hakel, so he wants the food. At the top, he knows that in order to make the food, in order to eat the food, you need to make a bracha. But what the Rebbe says, when you teach him Baruch Ata Hashem, the way Baruch Ata Hashem is supposed to be taught, that the food becomes secondary. Already it could be that it's secondary to the eating. the bracha, the bracha is the ikar. It happens to be that we need that you're eating the food, which means that in order to create healthy chassidim, we need to have already our first initial thing needs to be already the deepest thing. That's what needs to be the Lechatchila Ariber. So it's not only for kids. It's also for us adults. That I don't know for adults or big kids. Ain't cutting all of that, but we also ain't on the that, yeah. And I caught it also with that. I was always to say das cotton and say. But we see, the Rebbe always they want to ask the Rebbe what's your favorite what's your husband's favorite part of davening? So the Rebbe said she doesn't know. She'll ask her husband. So the next time she asked her husband, she asked the Rebbe said that Beis Ani is his favorite part of davening. Beis Ani. I saw last week also the Rebbe was explaining the miracle, what the Rebbe says, people are looking for miracles. So the Rebbe says, what's the biggest miracle? The biggest miracle, the Rebbe says, is that the Eibishter, when we say by the Aleph Anecha, the Eibishter is right there. It says in Shulchan Aruch that when a person needs to see it, as if the Eibishter is right by your bed, and the Eibishter is in your room. It says there's no greater miracle than this. There's no greater miracle than the fact that the Eibishter Alei Natus Mahos come. We know that how great the Eibishter is. Seivim Kalalmin, Mamalik Kalalmin, and the Eibishter has nothing better to do than to go into your house by your bed and to wait for you to wake up to see how you're gonna act for the day. So that was says so a person can imagine the miracle. Imagine the miracle of waking up in the morning. The first thing you want to do in the morning, you want to run to learn chassidishe. Rebbe Maharash says that the Maimer Rebbe Maharash, short Maimer, like 3 lines. That the Rebbe Maharash says that the first thing a person should speak when he wakes up in the morning is chassidishe. Yeah? The first thing he should speak in the morning is chassidishe. So the Rebbe says in this sikha that a person would think that the first thing what they're going to want to do when they wake up in the morning, and they're going to want to run and learn chassidishe. That should be their first thing. The Rebbe says that even though that Lechatchila Ariber, you need to have your tmid. It's not a Beis Iyar Farbrengen. It's Beis Iyar Farbrengen. The Rebbe says that even though that's going to be you're going to want to do, you're going to want to run learn chassidishe, but you need to know that you need to first say brachas, to be the consider, you do the chai brachas, the 18 brachas of brachas. Then you say brachas atayra. Then you need to learn a piece of teisha b'ksav, then a piece of teisha b'alpeh. But that's not nacha. The nacha needs to be the first thing we need to do in the morning is that we learn chassidishe in the morning. Everyone said that what's the misnagid? What's the definition of misnagid? A misnagid is there was late the Zeitung before davening. A misnagid is somebody who reads the paper before davening. Why? Because when you're reading you have a tendency, especially in the I think so many things happening in the world. We wake up in the morning, we need to see what's happening in the world. So we open our WhatsApp. I don't know if everybody has the WhatsApp already, the news, or you open your computer. What happened when I was sleeping? Something important happened. So that's not nacha. When our first perspective is that first thing we do when we wake up in the morning is that we learn. We look at the paper that our nachas are veltishana. What do you mean misnag? It's not a. It means that our world, the perspective to life is a worldly perspective. But what the first thing we do is we learn when we take a maimer chassidishe, or we daven, and we do chitas Rambam before anything else. If you want to know the news, we look at a chumash. Then it says a person should be zeichet harichos yomim. What's pshat harichos yomim? Children have long days. So the way I don't know, most days, every day is 24 hours. You can't have long days. Every day is a certain limited time period. So what's Arichas Yomim? Arichas Yomim is that tzlacha b'zman, that the time itself, the day itself is stretched. So how though do we have Arichas Yomim? When we start the day with a Lechatchila Ariber way, that we have the Moida Ani the first day, and then we think then we learn chassidishe. And Anacha the Eibishter, that's our first Anacha. Then our whole day is a different day. Our day is not when the first thing in our mind. It says the Baal Shem Tov says that a person should be very nizar in the first thing they say in the morning. Why? Because the first thing that you say, that's how your whole day is going to go. If the first thing you get upset at your wife or you scream at your kids, it's not going to be a good day. But if the first thing you do is you learn some chassidishe, that your whole day, that your first words of your day, then your whole day is a different day. So that's the Lechatchila Ariber, both in perspective of chinuch and both in our personal lives and the way we educate our kids. If we want to have chassidishe kids, that our hanacha needs to be. We can't give our kids hanachas ha'olam. That we're mechanech them. The first thing we need to know, they need to be mentioned. The first thing we need to know, we mechanech our children need to be chassidim. Go the way of the Eibishter. L'chaim. Niggin. Everybody's looking at me like a hot b'nei adam. Niggin, all of it. Need to give people a chance to leave. Huh? Sure. Huh? Oh. Have a Glock. Have a Zeger. 8 past the minute. Mamshech or no?
Mamshech or?
I don't know. We could.
I mean, from Elam Beis Malay.
Elam is Elam.
Van nog appartations was spoken af en Zoom.
Kane, nobody.
Very lovely.
You're already making up numbers.
Done. Rosemont van I feel with everybody this. But then it's a Chalei. Anyway, when the Hatzvi-Bais, you're wrong. Like if the Hatzvi-Bais, when you're ready. Wat gered wegen waarschijnlijk echt naar Rotterdam. De leeft naar de Gadorf.
Ik leef. I'm not running anywhere.
You know what?
Not running anywhere. Just.
Yeah, I know. Ja,
We gered is kurz.
Ja, wir haben ihn.
We gered is kurz.
Okay.
That was your,
All right. Okay. So fine. Yeah.
No, I'm not. There you go.
Bro.
Vowed. D.
Like that Marat, it was 8:30 in the morning. What was it? It was already
Yeah.
time was short by him.
Yeah.
You also finished it. Go. Contact better.
Verwemmen is a. The Beis Shleima. The says he said Markel that and afterwards it's a clear thing. It says, yeah, after I said everybody does the Markel. Either way. I was huh? Yeah. I was reading a sikha last week. I think maybe Tafshel Chalches, Lamed Aleph, I'm not sure. But the Rebbe over there says he wants to say a klud. People are looking for miracles. He says I'm going to say a klud, an often miracle, an open miracle from the Shever. So he said there was something in New York. Rebbe said there was something in New York that the Rebbe, I think it had to do with chinuch. The Rebbe thought that it wasn't yosher, it wasn't proper. But the Rebbe wanted to get rid of argue this idea. The Rebbe said that the only issue, the only problem was that this was something that was brought up by both miflagot. It was brought up by both parties. So that was said that. So the people told me that if the Democrats brought up the issue, then you could go to the Republicans and have them about the issue. But if it's Republicans, then you can go to the Democrats and have them about the issue. But here on a bipartisan issue, it's impossible. It would be impossible to be mevatel the gzeira. So Rebbe still wanted to be mevatel the gzeira. So Rebbe said, I sent somebody to mevatel the gzeira. I sent somebody. They put money into it. Sent somebody to deal with the problem, with the issue. So Rebbe said when he got to the court late. And it was already past the last day that you could file an appeal or something like that, and you could argue the issue. And the doors were locked, but somehow somebody else was sorry. That was the second day. It was the second time. The first time they was already past the deadline for the appeal. And they didn't want to hear the appeal, but speaking that they let somebody else talk about something else, they also let this person talk. Fine. But then it was impossible to do anything. And then it came the next time, by the time the guy got to the court, they had locked the doors already. The doors were locked. He got there late, and the doors were locked. And but so they let somebody else was able to go in, so he came in and he gave the appeal. Then it didn't go anywhere, the Rebbe said, and it didn't go anywhere, and it was already for 6 months that nothing happened. 6 months and nothing happened, and nothing happened. Rebbe says though that and he said about this chassid, he was embarrassed to come to Crown Heights. He was embarrassed to come to 7-7. He was so embarrassed that why? Because he knew that there was something that bothered the Rebbe, and something that the Rebbe invested. There was money invested in it, and he wasn't matzliach in it. He was embarrassed to come. That was said. Then 8 months later, after the initial thing, it was already finished. The Supreme Court they said that the whole thing was done incorrectly. And even though it wasn't on the docket and it wasn't on the assignment, well, it wasn't on the assignment even to the topic of the day to deal with this issue, but for unbeknownst to anybody or any Sipa or Tam, the reason reason for why they're about the issue, the Supreme Court that the whole thing was not yashar, and they needed to revote the whole thing. So that was the Kloraneth, huh? That didn't say what the issue was. I think it has something to do with chinuch. You need to ask the Yodim if you look at this.
The issue was redistricting. They wanted to redistrict so that the Jews in Crown Heights would have a lesser strong vote. And therefore, they wouldn't be able to vote for something to do with getting more money for the chinuch. They wouldn't have power to win the voting.
It would make them irrelevant.
It's called redistricting. They salamander. It's called, they make it like in a crazy way.
Gerrymander.
Gerrymander, yeah.
Salamander is the Gemara tightness.
No, that's why they call it gerrymander, because they make it like in that shape.
Either way, so the Rebbe's point though is that even when it seems that all is lost, that you can't work, you can't figure out the issue, there's nothing that can be done. So we need to figure out. We need to do if the Rebbe the Shver tells us, if the Rebbe tells us something, we need to do something. We need to figure it out. We need to do what we need to do. The Lechatchila Ariber, and try and figure out a solution to the issue. So there was also another similar ma'aseh with the Rebbe. Rebbe once told Chanukah to tell two chassidim to go do something, figure something out, and they went and they saw it was impossible. They came back to the Rebbe, and they told Chanukah, they said it's impossible it's a lost cause. So Chanukah told the Rebbe, the Rebbe told him, yeah, I knew that, and I knew though if they worked harder, I knew it's impossible. If I told them to do it, that if they would put their whole koiches into it, that it would be successful. So they said, "Oh, should we try again?" They said, "No, it's already lost." Which means oftentimes there's issues, there's problems that we think are they think that they're a lost cause, that we can't make any change. We can't change the situation. It's impossible to make anything better. Rebbe says Lechatchila Ariber, the lesson Lechatchila Ariber, and this is the initial understanding of Lechatchila Ariber. If you look at the way the Frierdiker Rebbe brings it, it's in Yanim Askanos, that in Yanim Askanos that a person shouldn't be disheartened by the impossibility of a situation, but they should go in a way with the Lechatchila Ariber that perhaps they could find a solution to the issue.
On the buffer, not because jump over all the trees.
Huh?
Buffer, jump over the trees. All day tomorrow.
Oh, over the trees?
Jump over.
Oh, jump over. Lechatchila Ariber. Oh, perfect. There was a Farbrengen. There was a time that I think it was in I forget what it was. I think it was in the Rebbe Maharash. I think it might have been in Vitebsk. Could be somewhere else. That the Chassidim they found out that the Rebbe Maharash, they found out that the Rebbe Maharash is in. They found out that the Rebbe Maharash is in town. So they gathered. All the Chassidim gathered together. The Chaser, they even put up a bima, and they to get the Rebbe Maharash. They wanted the Rebbe Maharash to say something. The Rebbe Maharash, he said that it's impossible. It's too hard for him to say a maimer, but he'll say something else. And the Rebbe Maharash, he started. He said that he said that it's there's Chalal says opposite of the Weltzot. The Rebbe said Rebbe Maharash then said you need to be mechashev. You need to consider something that the Welt that when the world says something, when the world has an expression, you need to take that expression seriously. Like it says in the Gemara, even it says "Haidi da Amri Inshi." This is what people say. Right? Because if people say something, there's there's something in it. Like we have Simcha here, so Nachman is always used to ask the people, you say, tell them Mili da Alma, tell them nicest of the world, tell them what's happening in the world, tell them things that are happening in the world. And Nachman used to find deep things and things that people the world thinks, the world says. So the Rebbe then said that there's an expression of the world that something is what's past, something that's appropriate. And then the Rebbe Maharash, at that time, he got up and he made it was a short speech, about 70, and he listed 7 things that pass for a chassid, 7 things that are appropriate for a chassid, and 7 things that are inappropriate for a chassid. And then at a later time, he also a couple years later, by Simchas Torah, he mentioned another few things. I just want to read. I'll read them in English but I think I think they're good things to know. That he said it's appropriate. It's pasik. It's appropriate for a chassid to learn something in chassidus every day. That's appropriate for a chassid to be involved in doing a favor for another, to do a favor to another person. It's appropriate. That's the second thing. The third thing, it's appropriate for a chassid to be happy, and especially to deal with other people in a nice way. It's appropriate for a chassid to recognize their own shortcomings, another person's qualities. It's appropriate for a chassid to view even the most lowly, simple person as being better than themselves. It's appropriate for a chassid to learn some positive traits and habits from everyone. What? It's appropriate for a chassid to view the most lowly person, simple person, as being better than themselves. It's appropriate for a chassid to learn positive traits and habits from everyone. Learn something from everyone.
This is statements from Rebbe
Maharash.
How many are there?
7. It's appropriate for a chassid. Then there's another list. Yeah.
7.
Yeah, and it's appropriate for a chassid to act with others with love, unity, harmony, and friendship.
Sounds like a lot of shots.
Oh, we're getting this. Then the Rebbe then he said things that are not possible for a chassid. He said the things that are appropriate and what's not appropriate for a chassid. It is inappropriate for a chassid to not learn this every day. It's inappropriate for a chassid to not be involved in helping others. It's inappropriate for a chassid to be sad and depressed. It's inappropriate for a chassid to not recognize his own shortcomings. It's inappropriate for a chassid to view himself as better than others. It's inappropriate for a chassid not to learn from others. It's inappropriate for a chassid to cause disharmony, even if it is for the sake of darkei chassidus. Even for the sake of darkei chassidus, it's inappropriate. Then there was another list that's appropriate for it to learn chassidus every day. It's inappropriate. Then there was another. A couple years later, he said another thing. You don't learn Gemara every day. You don't learn Gemara. As I said, Gemara every day. He says this is the person. It's inappropriate for a person not to go with not polished shoes. It's appropriate for. It's not appropriate for a chassid not to learn Gemara. It's inappropriate for a chassid not to learn Tanya. It's inappropriate for a chassid not to be involved in correcting his midos. And not only their negative midos, but also to improve their good midos. It's inappropriate for a chassid not to work on his davening. And he says, it doesn't mean the that the Lev Tov is Gematria Memtes. Why? Because the Avoida of Spheres Omer is the Avoida of Tikkun Amidos. You work on your character traits, and until that you're able to be a Merkava in order to receive the Torah. So in the most basic Kabbalistic sense, with chesed b'chesed, gula b'gula, working on our midas, working on our midas in order to be right for the Gevurah Torah. Also, we're at the time when we learned in the Pirkei Avos, which is midas Tovos, and it's also the time when the reason why we're noyeg in Avelos in Spheres Ha'omer is because the Hamidim of Rabbi Kiva loy nagu kavod zelazeh. They didn't respect one another. So I think did it get I don't know if this is streamed or not streamed. It should be streamed. It shouldn't be streamed.
Streamed or
It's no, I'm saying, but
if you want to shut it.
Turn off the recording.
Pools.